All right, and we're back, everyone. Welcome again to part two of the Avalon Roundtable. I am joined with these wonderful women who are sharing their insights on what we have been through in this 2020 year as we wrap up this last month of this magnificent, I will say that both with a smile and a tear, magnificent 2020 year and what is going to come in 2021. And so that's what we're talking about here in part two is what we feel is around the corner, whether this be intuitive sense, channeled divine information, or just aspects of observation. So I really want to open up that floor, and I will say that there is a lot of shifting. I notice in a lot of my readings right now with clients, there's a lot of consistent messages of just hold on and coast, depending where they're at. But it's like coast and float through the rest of 2020, and you'll be able to step into more forward movement come mid-January. That's something that I'm seeing happening over and over and over in the messages. So I'm kind of curious what you guys are getting here too, and what you feel. And before I open it up, I'm just going to say one more thing. One more little thing is another consistent message I'm getting, and it seems to be continually coming with water. Like I keep seeing waves and flooding and water. And at first I was wondering exactly what this meant. And although I do feel there is a certain amount of potentials with earthquakes, shifting of Mother Earth physically still, we've seen it with hurricanes, we've seen it with fires. I do think there is a lot of that. Symbolically, I feel there is a deep returning to the energies of like the Atlantis and Lemurian knowledge base, the balance of polarities within our minds, of science and consciousness, of masculine and feminine, of art and sport, of like the aspects of both for wholeness, which is really what I feel like we may very well be stepping into in 2021, is that higher energetic aspect of being and living from compassion. So Cindy, we started with you last time. So what are some of your thoughts of where we're going in 2021?
All right. So it's a lot like what you are talking about with the finding the balance of the masculine and feminine. I feel like historically we've gone through being mostly in the masculine, we've gone through both mostly being in the feminine, and we haven't integrated having both of them. And the messages that I keep getting from my guides is to embody and awaken the divine masculine and feminine within our physical bodies, because that's going to be how we manifest and create a better world. We've been, I feel like, for so long, many of us light workers, we've been tapping into the higher realms so that we can channel and we can tap into the Akashic records, into our spirit guides, but we've ignored the body for so long. We've been just focusing on up here. And the messages that I've been getting is that it's the physical body that is the vehicle that is helping us to be here right now. And it's about awakening that Kundalini energy, or that masculine and feminine, and finding the balance of action and rest, finding the balance of intuition and logic, finding the balance of just accepting the duality of other people. Obviously, right now we have so many different opinions going on everywhere around us about what's happening. But can we find kindness and compassion and just accept that that's somebody else's truth? And that's where the unity is going to come from, because we're always going to have polarity. We're always going to have a difference of opinion, no matter what. But it's about coming back into the heart and just allowing that to happen in whatever way it looks like for each individual person, instead of always searching for or fighting against the separateness. Like everybody, we're coming from a place of feeling like we're all separate, and we're not. We're one humanity. And the more that you can, each person, find the balance of the masculine and feminine and the shadow and the light within ourselves, the more that it's going to make room and give permission for the external world to do the same. And I think that's what's going to help us all to ascend into the 5D, the 6D, the whatever D beyond that. Because if we move forward in the feminine energy that we're back in right now since 2012, and we're only in the feminine energy, and in another cycle we're just going to end up in the same boat. So that's what I'm really feeling strongly is manifest through your body, get in touch with your physical body. And I feel like there's really amazing changes that are coming through all of the struggle. And it's just giving us the opportunity to really look at what we believe and what we can change and what we can let go of. I also want to say, I feel like it's such a strong time for letting go and changing ancestral patterns right now. That's been one thing that's been coming through so strongly, is the ancestral patterns, because we don't know if one person is like completely fearful of this virus. We don't know that in their ancestral line or in a past life they didn't die of the plague, or they didn't have like lose their lives because they couldn't afford to feed their family. Like, we don't know. And I think collectively a lot of these ancestral and past life patterns are rising to the surface so that we can recognize that in this lifetime we are safe, and to release that fear so that we can find peace in moving forward. And if we can do that, and I think it's happening, you know, whether some people are conscious of it or not, I think it's just happening. I think that's the way forward. That's the way to, I guess, quicken it.
I think that's
And
beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And I just want to touch on when if we go back to the beginning of what you were saying, just for people that are newer to consciousness and newer to uh, spiritual talk, when we're talking masculine and feminine, like we're not talking male versus female, we're talking a masculine linear energy and a feminine curvilinear energy that resides within us all. A balance, light, dark, like you were saying, all the things. But I just want to be really clear, because I'll still have clients sometimes say, like, well, what do you mean? Like, why are you saying man versus woman, which is not what we're saying, right? So I just want to clarify.
Right. Yeah, it's the yin and the yang. We all have the masculine and feminine within our bodies. Everybody does. We have a right brain and a left brain. We have the logical side of our body and the intuitive side of our body, and we have to meld the both. If you really look at the way that you live in your life, most people are predominantly one or the other. And so I think we need to all find the balance of that in ourselves.
Yeah, I agree. Beautiful. Thank you, Cindy.
You're welcome.
Suzanne, what are you feeling for 2021?
2021, in terms of collective shifts and growths, I think we're going to see similar death rebirth cycles collectively, but less tumultuously, if that makes any sense. They're still going to be coming up, but they won't feel nearly as all encompassing, I think, collectively as they have felt over this next, like you said, the next few years. And that's kind of what I've been hearing is the next, 4 to 8 years, like it's somewhere in there. But the shifts as they go, they're less painful. And I think most of you that have been going through this evolution process, as you know, that you're constantly spiraling and circling the same kinds of pattern loops, but it takes less time. You still go through the full depth of the cycle, but when you're in the low, deep part, you can swing through it much quickly. And it's necessary to go through every phase of that. I truly 100% believe that all of us have to delve through. We can't bypass or go to the light or our way out. Like, we have to navigate through. But I think that as everyone cycles through collectively, like this mass awakening, the next shift, it gets easier to allow ourselves the permission to go through this. And I think that's what we're going to continue to see kind of collectively. And I know Cindy touched on the masculine and feminine, and I kind of touched on it in the first part, is I really truly feel a blending of the masculine and feminine energies. And I think light workers are the first to embrace it. And I honestly feel that those of us who've gone through living in a very masculine life and then having to live a very feminine yin life for whatever reason. I know, Elise talks about her grief, and that really like has to move into that space. I know, for myself a few years ago, severe physical illness and having to really, really flow into that feminine. And I feel like having gone through both of those, allows us as light workers to really step up into that healthy, balanced, divine, masculine and feminine. And that's where we see people feeling more safe with us to lead them through this navigation, which is what I'm really noticing with men in particular. Most of my clients, not most of my clients, but most of my clients with partners refer their partners to me because I have become that safe space, and more of the men are finding me as a safe space for them. And I think I think I'm going to, use my logical mind on this one, but I think it's because I actually have a healthy blend of that feminine and masculine, of that very spiritual and very physical. And I think that's necessary in this evolution for all of us, because we need a healthy representation. And I think us light workers are the ones that are meant to lead the way in that and pave the way.
And
Yeah.
there really is such a call right now for a lot of people to be stepping up and shine their light and take that role of a light worker. And there's many ways people do this, right? Like look at us. There's 5 of us on here right now, and we each do it in a different way, right? And there's such a call to step up. And I think that's also, like we talked about in the part 1, that quickening. A lot of people are feeling more thrust onto this path, and therefore looking for people that have already been on this path to guide them to then be whatever their version of this on the path, right? Like, so it's like all these links in a chain that are all connecting quite rapidly right now. And so, yeah, I agree. There is such that balancing of masculine and feminine and the representation of it, to honor, say, like boundaries and compassion, right? Like that's one example, is like how to say, no, not happening, but I love you and I'll hold space, So I think what you're saying is really beautiful, and it makes a lot of sense for sure. Lisa, what are your feels on 2021?
Okay, just to touch on a couple things. I feel obviously a lot of the same patterns arise when talking to clients or even friends and family, is you seeing the balancing of the masculine and the feminine and how much it's coming up. And I really agree with Suzanne when she was talking about that us as light workers have really been called to step up. And so we've been doing some of this like really big work in the last like even couple of years, and this year almost not in like preparation, but getting us pulled forward so that we can be able to light the way for a lot of people that are coming into this consciousness, this greater consciousness. And then and that's not always easy, right? Like we're human too, so like navigating through that, like Elise said. But okay, so I'm going to be a little vulnerable here, but when you went off camera, I got a really strong message to channel for 2021, so I'd like to share it with you.
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
Okay, so 2021, I'm like, okay, quick, like what, like any like messages, and I tap in, and what shows up is what they call themselves as placers of light lots of times. So this was a message from a placer of light. In 2021, although it seems like it's getting better, it is getting better, but looking at what surfaces. So I was talking about kind of as the wave pulls back, what surfaces. So like 2020 is like the upheaval of the like deep rooted stuff that's being pulled. And so a lot of the work has been done. But what 2021, like what I got was that it's the exposure of what's been pulled up. So it's might expose some darkness, that things that have been compiling from many moons, people, systems, what we previously thought was accurate or truth will seem to shine a different light. Currents are changing. So what will seem more negative is actually just the surfacing of these old shadows. And so now we are to rebuild from our new consciousness. They'll still be the light and the dark, but the balance will be from a higher frequency. Without the balance, we cannot stay in existence. So this will help. So the help will continue to come in from outside light workers. So for us, stay in the light and keep connecting with our highest consciousness and everyone's guides of light. So again, like us light workers being called forward, but I got that like some of the like dirty work that has been kind of pulling up in 2020 is going to be more exposed in 2021, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so it might seem like, oh, we thought 2020 was bad, but that was like the hard work to do the exposure. And I think in 2021, we're going to see more of that kind of darkness exposed in old, outdated systems.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we've already kind of seen it a lot of like the movements and stuff, but I think we're going to approach these exposures with a higher consciousness. And so I don't know, I just feel like I'm ready to step into it and help whatever way I'm called to do so. That's what I get.
Yeah, that's great. And that, I mean, that does make sense too. Again, like if we take that wave thing on the beach, like the stuff has been exposed and now we have to decide what we're going to do with it. And to decide that, you have to actually look at what is there. Right? So like we can't turn a blind eye anymore. We can't pretend like something's not happening. And yeah, that resonates a lot. So thank you for sharing that channeling. That's wonderful. Awesome. Elise, what do you feel for 2021?
Yeah, so I feel even before getting to 2021, I've been getting a strong sense, honestly, just in the last couple of days of really using, and I think some of the things happening in Alberta anyways, as far as kind of relocking down, but I know that's happening across Canada and all over the world to varying degrees, is there's a real need for us to go back inward and recharge for December. Like lock it down. And I'm not talking like COVID lock it down, but like lock your shit down and come inward, spend time, you know, in your sacred spaces, sacred movement, journaling, sleeping, like just resting and recharging, because a lot of my clients and myself too, I'm hitting this space of burnout where it's just hard to exist in the world right now because there's just so much and it's been so much. So I really feel like, I know we're all hoping that the clock will roll over and 2021 will hit and we'll be like, okay, we're good. Everything's good again. But that's not, I think, what we're all saying or feeling is going to happen. So I feel like wrapping the year up with some real introspective work and some real like truly nourishing, recharging is important. Because we need to sustain ourselves moving forward, because as you know, we've all been saying it, there's still work to do. And so I wrote down a few thoughts that came up as well as we were logged off. And it's so funny to see, it's not funny, but it's just always so lovely to see when a group of intuitive people come together and we're all getting the same but different, right? It's all the same sort of theme, just different lenses. So for me, it was really about, one of the things that I've so deeply learned in grief is the experience of holding deep grief and pain and joy and beauty at the same time. That lesson has come up for me time and time again, and we see it in the collective as well. COVID was really hard on our finances and our relationships and our careers and XYZ, whatever, fill in the blank. And yet I was given this time to spend time with my family or my kids, or, you know, I was able to get the things done in my home that I've been too busy to do for the last 10 years, or, you know, whatever. I think people really, there was a lot of people that when we initially all kind of got shut down in the spring, this sense of peace of having that time that we've always wanted. And I want to acknowledge that that was not the experience for everyone, and being shut into their homes and with you know, in unhealthy or dangerous potentially situations is very real, and I don't want to bypass that. And yet there's pieces of this experience over the year that has allowed some people to really connect back into what it is that they want. And this is really, really hard, and it's sad and it's scary. And yet I'm finding these glimpses of joy and beauty in being forced into certain situations that I didn't necessarily think I wanted or needed. So I think that that is a real kind of speaking on the same lens or the same wavelength of the masculine feminine embodiment. It's that duality of painful, challenging experiences and joyful experiences, and that we can hold space for both, and we can exist in both. And it's not one or the other, and it doesn't have to be good or bad, light, dark, we'll often label, but really just allowing space for both, because without one, there's not the other. Without our ability to feel deep pain and challenge and sadness or anger, or any of the quote unquote, bad emotions that aren't bad, but that's what society can label them as, we can't experience true joy and true fulfillment and happiness and all of those quote unquote good things. So they have to come together. And as humans, I think we have to start to learn to hold them together, because that's not something that has always been embodied. And I think that that's as light and dark, as masculine, feminine, joy and pain. They all have to go together. And that's part of our human experience. I think there was so much evolution with people, and we see a lot of the wellness community really focusing on, and I know Suzanne, you talked about this, like the bypassing of the hard stuff and like light and love and everything's great and focus on the good. And I think that that is swinging too far into the other direction, and we're bypassing our human experience. We're bypassing the real challenges of people. We're bypassing what it truly means to experience it all. And there has to be that space for both. And with that, I think we'll start to see that, Lisa, you were talking about like really that exposure of the darkness, or really the old kind of archaic systems that have been in place that, like you said, we've started to see come to the surface. And I've noticed there's been a lot of like back and forth about the right way to address these things. And I think, again, it's about the duality. It's about there's some folks that need to fight the fight, and there's some folks that can support those things from a different perspective, and then we're all kind of floating in the middle. And so how do we address the injustices and very real challenges in the world for a lot of humans, while coming at it from both human experience people and intuitive, connected, divine light workers, and as a collective, a conscious community. So I think it's really about that, like we've all said, finding that balance and supporting the community in a balanced way, not one or the other, because there's been a lot of that divide. And the divide in itself takes away from the forward movement. It just prevents us from moving forward when we're all, not all, but a lot of us are trying to get to the same place. We're just doing it in different ways. So everyone kind of coming together in that middle space and bringing the benefits of both ways of being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so true, and I really like how you did touch on the, a couple of you guys did too, though, but like on the not bypassing, because I know even in my own personal journey, that's something that I've been having to learn, is not just because I can understand something from a higher perspective, from the 3 guides of the light, from any of the ascended masters or guides that are telling me this is why this is why, and I'm like, yes, I get it, makes sense, is we are still the humans that are we are in this soup mix, right? Like we are literally in it. And there is also place for the human experience, for the frustration, the sadness, the anger, just like you're saying, as there is for the joy, the humor at the inappropriate times, because that's your outlet, right? Or just like tears at times where you would want to hold them back. Like there's the very human experience. And so I think the way that, like you guys are saying, we pull that all together is that 2021 is really about conscious choice and being consciously aware of what you're feeling, perceiving what's going on in the world, not shutting your eyes to anything, but then also consciously choosing how you're going to be and how you're going to create the ripple, right? Like the ripple that extends out from you, because that's what is the change maker. right? So it's all those things wrapped into one big crazy bow of change, right? And so again, if we go into this 4 to 8 year change shifting time, we're just starting off, right? So there's still so much to come, so much to unravel. But as you guys have said, it really seems like we're going to unravel with more finesse as we become more conscious to these spirals on the staircase of coming back to self. And the more consciously we are aware of those changes, the more we can implement them, shift them, move forward. Implement, shift, move forward, instead of getting hung up in the drama and the chaos and stunting the progression. So, yeah, I think that's a lot of really good stuff that you guys had to share. So I want to thank you all on that. Is there anybody that wanted to add anything in closing? Any last minute things that kind of came up that you wanted to share?
I get a strong sense too is it's a lot of quote unquote work, you know, even in the human form and the people who are doing it in more like 3-dimensional way. And then of course, like the light workers, and like we can feel, you know, spiritual fatigue, and like we're doing a lot. But I got like a really big nudge to be like, integrate more fun. Like, don't forget to play, right? Have some fun and be playful and joyful in things that you can be like, oh my goodness, like this just seems so crazy and I'm tired and I'm sad or I'm this or I'm, it's like, what could you like go back to inner child stuff, right? Like, don't forget to have fun, because having fun, even when you're a hot mess of tears or whatever, is really like, it raises the vibration in yourself, your surroundings, the people around you. And it can just be something as small as like seeing swings if you're at the park and be like, yeah, I'm going for a swing or something like that. Just don't forget to have fun. That's just a little tidbit. Yeah, have fun.
I agree. I love it. All right, ladies. Well, thank you so much for imparting your wisdom, as always, from all of your perspectives. Thank you to your guides that have come through with insights, and to your own journeys for sharing these really pertinent perspectives as we move forward. And I really look forward to doing this again as well, so we can share more as we evolve. Because honestly, the more we share, the more we can learn compassion for other people's perspectives, and you know, carry on our journey. So thank you, ladies, so much. I will put in the comments below if anybody does want to reach any of you for readings or sessions, Akashic record readings, healings, all that kind of stuff. I'll put that all in the comments below. And yeah, so thank you all again, you guys. And I wish you guys a wonderful rest of your day.